Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about starting to implement things. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, you have raised an interesting point. What is all the needed info to start working? When can I say that it's enough and start coding? I have a few gaps in the architecture right now that I need to discuss with the enterprise architects, but overall it seems they should not impact the main course. Is there any merit for cases when I would like to explore all first and only then start coding versus gradually emerging into writing code? So if I understood you correctly, basically what you're asking me is, should you explore all the possibilities, or should you start on a solution and then sort of iterate and gradually figure out what you're going to build? So usually I tell people that, I actually really only talk to my most trusted friends and coworkers about this one, but there is a very big, this is the thing that I argue defines if you are dealing with an engine type of software developer, or if you're dealing with some like a true senior or someone who is going to make the difference. So when you ask if you should know all the things first or you should start to like iterate on the thing, you're already sort of indicating to me that you haven't really taken the time to understand the most underlying and fundamental thing, which is what is the goal of what you're trying to achieve. Now, this hands down is the number one sin and biggest shortcoming, I argue, for all software developers across the board. It doesn't matter if they are junior, senior, or whatever they are. They can be the most skilled software developers ever. I've seen this all the way up to the architects level, where you have people, guys, who basically lead entire companies who cannot do this. And because they are lacking in this area, the systems just keep on producing shit. They will never get fired because they are skilled, but they lack this fundamental thing, and that is that in order for you to answer that question, should you iterate or should you start doing some exploring, you need to understand what your short-term goal is right here, right now, and what your long-term goal is for the thing that you are doing. Now, the reason why I say that is because the number one thing that software developers do is what I call, they just try to get the story done. They focus on the story. That's it. Nothing else matters. And you will see this a lot, guys, where you have software developers who just pick up the story card. They don't care enough to actually figure out whether or not, like, how does this story fit into what we're trying to build. They don't even take the time to figure out if the story is right or if it's actually going to cause problems or anything like that, because they have no oversight, like no interest basically in figuring out the bigger picture around what they're trying to achieve. So they just blindly do whatever the story card does. This is unforgivable, in my opinion. It's at least if you are supposed to be a senior software developer or someone who's truly effective, it's actually the thing that I look for the most in like the teams that I run. Because the thing that I have to get the team to understand is that their story is just one piece in a greater whole. And if they don't understand that greater whole, that one piece that they are implementing is going to cause us problems. And this is something where I try to explain. I had that talk with a coworker of mine where I said that you know that you have someone who truly understands what they're trying to achieve when every story they create solves the problem that they have right now, but also very nicely transitions, fits as a building block for the next thing they're going to do. And then the next thing is sort of like paving a road. Each slab they put in fits so that the next piece can be put in. If you have someone who's really shit at this, they will just put the slab in the wrong position and you have to redo their work so that it can fit into the next slot. Or you have to start compromising and all of a sudden your paved road looks like shit because people don't actually care or think about how to make this into a nice overall road. They just keep on like putting down rocks or whatever in like random positions, because as I said, they have no sense of direction or long-term perspective. Now the dangerous part with having only a long-term perspective is that, as you were saying, like you can sure you can make the argument that you're going to plan everything out ahead. That's not going to work. But what you can do is what I argue, and that is to understand that there is a long-term thing you're trying to achieve, but there's also a short-term thing. So the first thing you want to do is to get as many details as possible from your stakeholders. Now the reality is that not even your stakeholders or your enterprise architects, your PO or whatever, is going to have an answer to every question that you can have. But this is something that ties back to what I've said before as well, guys. The mark of a really good senior software developer is that they know what questions to ask. The most important is asking good questions to get the information that they need, so that even if they may not have every detail, they now have enough information about how the system is supposed to work right now and what we're moving towards, like what's the end goal, so that they can build the right solution for now without blocking future work. And the best part about that is that that is something that you can, if you get all the details, then you will see you can imagine it a little bit like if you stand in front of a dark road and you can't really see, or a bridge or something, you can't really see where you're going. You can only see a few feet ahead in a fog or something like that. And if you get some good information during your session with your stakeholder, the road opens up, or like it gets lit for you, so you can see further down the road. The more details you can get, the further down you can see, and now you can start walking. You may not be able to see the end of the road, but you will be able to take confident steps, and then when you get to the next segment that is sort of cloudy or foggy or dark, you ask more questions, you have more information, and now more of the road is going to be visible for you. That's the approach that you get. And so what I usually tell people is ask questions, get as many details as possible of what the thing is going to do, short term and long term, and then make sure that you delay the things that you don't really know to as late as possible. Do the things that you feel comfortable doing, or the things that you are confident that you can implement first, and wait with the stuff that is unclear. Because basically the longer you wait, as it's sort of with my little analogy here, the more of the road is going to get visible, the closer you get to the other side of the thing. So what I want you to take away from this is that basically what I suggest to people is that you solve this problem for our industry. And the problem is that everybody is a code monkey, or the average software developer is a code monkey, where the only thing you care about is what the story card says. They only care about delivering this thing here. They don't care enough to learn their domain. They don't care enough to learn like the surrounding, like who is going to use the system. They don't care enough to learn. Guys, I see this all the time. This is actually one of the things that I work with, fixing this problem within software teams. It's everywhere. Most software teams has at least, like some of them are all made up of the people like that. Like they really don't. Like you can ask them, who are your users? You can ask them, how is like all these systems, how do they work together? What are we going to build? What's like within what's the main features we're going to work on these next few months? They don't actually know, because all they care about is writing code that's specified in the story. That's not going to work for you. So what you need to do is to understand, what do I need to do short term, like in the story or like the coming stories that I'm working on, and what am I trying to achieve long term, because your code can be written in many ways. And as I said, with the paving of a road, if you don't know which direction your road is going to head, you're going to start putting rocks or slabs in the wrong way, and you're going to get a really shitty road. But if you know the long-term direction, then you know how to put each stone so that it fits with the next thing you're going to do. That is the iterative process. The more details you can get from your stakeholder, the more stones or the more progress you can make, and the more foresight you will get. Sometimes you have very little details, and sometimes you have a lot. Just make sure that you start with the stuff that you feel fairly certain can be done. If you're lucky, you can do all of it and basically immediately. Sometimes you have to do some like exploratory stuff and so forth, but it's all about getting a foresight on like which path are you going to take now, like what's the next natural step for you to take, and then you take that step, and then you delay things that you don't have details for, and try to continuously ask new questions of your stakeholders, because it's the details of how the systems is going to work that you're going to discover in an iterative process. That's usually how I tell people to deal with this whole idea of like architecture and how to approach starting to work on a system. Have a great day.